Welcome to the Crafty Mini, and in this one, sort of like a parts collaboration. So when I did my look back of my first ever video, I put a post up asking, is there any other videos or things that I've done in the past, would you like me to revisit and even repaint, and I'll get the same miniature and then we can compare and all that sort of stuff. But I got a cool comment from a fellow channel, Craft Crusades. Go and check them out. I'll leave a link in the description. Really good. Got some really amazing paint jobs. It does a lot of shorts at the moment, and yeah, just a phenomenal painter. Basically, he sent a carrier pigeon over and hit me up with, he wanted me to paint something from the 80s, 90s. So I was looking through my stuff. I've got various little, old board game things and trinkets and whatnot, and I found some of the original Heroquest miniatures. Now, the elf in particular, which is the one we'll be painting here, that was the first ever miniature I painted back when I was about 10, 12 years old. So I thought, right, we'll give it another go. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to keep it basically as close to the original artwork as possible in terms of colour schemes and things, and just see how it comes out in the end. Now, painting these older miniatures, because of the moulding and how they were done back then, there's a lot of mould lines and things to clean off, which you'll see here. Pretty straightforward, just using a scalpel just to shave little bits off. You've got to be a bit careful with the older plastics if you do, anyone who buys an older game, because they're a bit more brittle, so you just be careful as you are. Take your time with everything, especially if you're shaving plastic off and things like that. Also, it's amazing looking at the sculpt quality. So for this miniature, the quality is still there. It's still a beautiful mini, but you can see that this was hand done and not like done in a 3D program and then printed out like a lot of the miniatures these days. There's little bits where you can see the original sculptor. There's a couple of little mistakes and things, but it all adds to the charm and the character of the actual miniature itself. So this is, as I say, this is from Heroquest, a game I played, one of my first ever miniature games, and it's something that got me into the hobby. And yeah, we're going to go forward now and paint him. Right, so in the top left of the screen, that image is going to be staying throughout the entire video. So that is the original artwork from the character card from the actual board game of Heroquest for the elf. So we've got this nice red tunic, this light sort of leather armour around his shoulders and his trousers, a pouch, a sword and some dark leather boots, and then this greyish white hair. And that's basically the colour scheme we're going to go for on this miniature. So another sort of byproduct of the older plastics is you definitely need to base coat them. And I would recommend in this instance, especially if it's a coloured plastic, is go for a darker base coat, just because it's going to give you a bit better coverage, and you know that the paint layers that you're going to add on later are going to adhere to it. Now what I'm actually doing with this is I'm going to be using purely my Pro Acryl stuff because I want to get the nicest finish I can. This base grey, this is light grey, and this will be mixed in with every single base colour for the miniature itself. So I've just got this unifying sort of tone across everything. And as you see, as we'll go on in further clips, you'll see how that affects the paint itself. Right, so as I previously mentioned, so what I'm going to do now is mix in, so the red that I'm going to use for the tunic, but I'm mixing in a little bit of that grey as well, just to get that initial base tone on, and then we'll work up to the original red as it comes out the bottle, and that'll be the highest highlights. And it's just a case taking your time and going around and mapping out all the colours. Now, one of the nice things with an older sculpt is there's a lot less faff on the miniature, which is an issue in some miniatures you can get these days. There's lots of little bits of detail and things, which although can add a lot of character and a lot of nuance to the actual sculpt itself, sometimes it detracts from the overall look. And what I like about this is it's very simple. He's just got two belts and then his tunic and his trousers and a little bit of armour, and that's it. So just go in now and blocking out all the colours, starting with the red. So exactly the same again, except this time going with the golden brown by Pro Acryl. And again, I've got a bit of that grey mixed in, and we're just blocking out the trousers and that sort of shoulder armour that's around his actual top of his torso. And it actually goes right the way around the back as well. It's quite a thick piece on the miniature. It's a lot thicker than it looks in the image itself. But again, just blocking out the colours, taking your time. And also, watching this footage back, one thing I will say is with the older sculpts, because of the simplicity, I think they're actually a lot easier to paint as well. So for newbies, maybe it's something, if you can get hold of some of these older minis, go for it. They're actually a lot of fun to paint. Now, so we're going to go and mark out the boots and all the leather belt and his sort of cross belt that he's got to his pouch as well, in the same colour, and again mixing that initial grey tone. Now at this point it does look quite muted, but because I'm sticking with just the artwork and there's not like, I mean, there are some paint jobs you can find out there from the original set and the way they were done, and they're like a typical 80s 90s miniature. It's very, very bright and in your face, but I'm keeping this quite muted. But when we go to the initial colours before it's mixed in with that grey, you'll see it does actually pop a little bit more, and it gives it a really nice sort of contrast. And because you've got that unifying colour in everything sort of blends together a bit more. It's something you can go and look at. It's called Mother Colour, and basically because you have that same base colour mixed in with every of your initial sort of layers, everything just comes together and it looks like it all sort of belongs. Also, one thing I will say is painting a miniature that's not related to like a box art where you see a full professionally painted miniature has been an absolute joy, and I like the fact that I'm just concentrating on this original artwork from the game itself. It's a lot easier to paint, and it's something I find I get quite frustrated when if I'm painting something and I'm trying to get it to as close to the box art, because those images are professionally painted and they possibly could be photoshopped up a little bit as well, and it can be a bit disheartening if you're trying to paint like that and not being able to get it exactly as it is on the book or on the box itself. Sorry. So yeah, express yourself a bit more. Don't worry about not getting it exactly like the let's say the professional painted stuff. And again, the nice thing with this, you've got a nice bit of artwork, and you can just follow that as close or as little as you want as well. Now when it comes to the skin tone, I was toying with the idea, do I still mix that initial grey? And I decided to, because it actually washes the colour out a little bit and makes it a bit more withdrawn and a bit colder. And then when we add the highlights with the original skin tone without that grey mixed in, it really makes the features punch a little bit more. Also with a sculpt like this, because they're the way they've been done and they're all hand sculpted, as I say, opposed to like a 3D program and things these days, the features are a bit more pronounced, because obviously this has been done by someone with a sculpting tool probably about the size of the paintbrush, and has had to go in and that, you know, they're not quite symmetrical, and they've got these little bits of flaws in the sculpt as well, but that adds all to the character. And there's little things like the eyebrows are really pronounced in there, so we'll pick those out and things like that. Right, so last of the base coats is the hair, and all I've done is, so I've got again the original grey, and I've mixed in some of the white. I'm just going to pick out the hair itself. Now on the sculpt, the front of the head and just to that sort of first little side bit before the ears, you can see where they've sculpted the strands of hair, and it's really quite pronounced. But then as you get further back into the head, it sort of blends together a little bit. So with the highlighting layers later on, that's where we'll pick out our round strands so it all marries together a bit better. And again, just taking your time. And then after this step as well, once all your base coats are down, that's where I'll go around the model and just see is there anywhere where I've got painted over, and just go in and fix any little issues. Like there's a little bit on the tunic I've noticed where that light brown has come off the shoulder and onto the red of his actual coat. So I'll go in there and I'll just neaten everything up before the next step. Again, because it's an 80s 90s miniature, I was toying with the idea, do a head or do the metallics, and I'm going to keep it really simple like it was back in the day. So the blade is just painted in a nice silver, and again I've actually added a little bit of that grain to mute it slightly, and then when we highlight it up, it'll just pop a little bit more. And then the hilt and the little bit of the handle, you can see, will just be done in a very basic gold, as it is on the artwork there, and just keep it simple. And then there's little tiny these sort of like embellishments. There's a couple on the wrist sort of braces that he's got, and on the belt there you can see me picking out. and I'm just grabbing that, touching those out with the same metallic colour. Right, so I'm going to do another little shout out here. So this unifying wash I'm going to put on everything. I got this from watching a video on Sonic Sledgehammer Studios on YouTube. He does a lot of miniature painting, so go and check him out. And it's basically a one-to-one mix of a bottle of Lamia Medium from GW, a bottle of Reikland Flesh Shade, and a bottle of Army Painter Dark Tone that I've put in a bigger bottle. And basically you just slap this all over, and it goes on really, really dark at first, and it looks a bit worrying. But when it dries, it just hits the recesses, and it very gently tints everything. It's not as aggressive as, say, like an Agrax Earthshade or Army Painter Strong Tone, things like that. It does leave a glossy finish because of the Lamia Medium, so what I tend to do is, after it's dried and I've picked out all my highlights, is I go over with an ultra matte varnish just to cover everything and get rid of that glossiness that's in all the recesses. But as a wash, this is really good. He has mentioned that he calls it either, I think it's marine juice or something like that, and he's got his recipe on his channel, but it's a really easy one to actually mix, and it is a fantastic unifying wash to do, especially for this scale and if you have to get something sort of tabletop ready. Right, so the wash is dry, and you can see there it's picked out a lot of the details, done a lot of the hard work for me. And now what we're going to go in do now is the original colour without that grey mixed in, and I'm just going to pick out the areas, and this will give a really nice bright highlight that'll show off the actual colour scheme and get it close to the artwork. And because we mix that muted base colour on the initial layer, that sits in the background, and there's a nice blend between the two. And it's a really simple way of getting these nice shadows and these sort of edge highlights and definition on your miniature without a lot of work as well. And on this one in particular, it does, at the end, it does come out really nice. So just going around, first of all, the exact same steps. So I'm picking out the red first, and then I'll go on to the browns and so on. And just take your time with it. And the exact same here with that lighter brown on the armour and the trousers as well. And this is where the miniature really starts to pop, and you get a nice contrast in the colours. And like with the all sort of highlighting, I'm not going right up to where I've painted previously, I'm leaving a bit of that previous layer in. And again, that glossiness that's in the recesses, that will go once we've put the matte varnish, so don't worry about that. It does look a little bit out of place at this point. And just, again, taking your time, going around. And with a nice, one thing I'll say as well, with an 80s, well, an earlier style miniature, because there are some people who sell them and they're still in this sort of sculpting in this style. Because there's a lot more flat areas, or areas where there's not lots of extra little bits of ropes and bags and pouches and things, you can be take your time a lot more, and it's almost like painting by numbers. It's a lot more user friendly, I think. And it just really pops in the end. It looks. I'm really happy with this, and I'm glad that he challenged me to do this. It's a lot of fun, and I'm going to go in and I might actually paint all the rest of the original heroes, because I've got a set of each of those, and do like a nice little diorama base or something with them. Because this is as I say, this is a blast from the past. This is something I played as a kid, 30 years ago now. And it's something that I hold very dear to my heart, is Heroquest, and that's why I got when Hasbro did the sort of remake of it, the reprint, I went and got it all, because trying to get hold of the base set these days is very difficult and very, very expensive. And same process with the flesh. Now again, because of the features, so I'm just sticking to like the high cheekbones, the nose, the bridge of the nose into the forehead, and a little bit on the chin and the lips. And then the fingers, it'll just be the actual knuckle areas and the rounding of the fingers themselves, just to pick out the high areas. And because I haven't got that grey in this now, this adds a lot of warmth and a lot of punch to the miniature, and it really sets it off. And exactly the same process, but this time with the hair. So again, I'm picking out those very particular strands, the top of the head, Obviously this is where I'll add a bit more, and I'm spacing out my paint, my actual brushing slightly, just so when we come to do the vertical lines down the bit of the hair that, as I mentioned, is sort of moulded in and you can't really see the definition, it'll all sort of punch a little bit more. And then the hair itself is the only piece where I gave it an additional highlight, just picking out some of the areas with just a slightly brighter colour. But it's, again, really simple, take your time with it and you can't go wrong. And this is it here, where I'm just going in with the even lighter white now, just picking out the very tips of the hair just to make it a bit more pronounced, and I'll use this colour on the eyebrows as well. But yeah, absolutely fantastic idea. Thank you, Craft Crusades, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to definitely do some more of this sort of stuff in the future. If you, as I say, if you can get hold of an older, either an older plastic miniature itself, or if you can get something that's that sort of early late 80s, early 90s style, I do recommend it. It's just, first of all, it's just a lot of fun to paint. It's something, you know, something I've not done since I was a kid, and a lot of fun, and really, really nice and easy paint job to do. But you'll see all the sort of finished shots now, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. Thank you all very much for your support. Cheers.